room this time. So I'm definitely here. Yeah, we're here to do a whole bunch of really cool stuff for X-Wing. We're going to be talking about upcoming releases. We're taking a look at the stuff that is on the horizon next, following the last releases of this year, i.e. Razor Crest and a couple of other things I think everyone's going to find very exciting. I feel okay saying the Razor Crest because BK showed off an image of that once talking about this panel on social media. Then we're going to dive into some X-Wing OP news. We're going to talk about what to expect from that in the coming years and have some more information on like worlds and things like that are going on, especially given all the situations going on across the globe with the pandemic. And then we're going to talk about the points updates and the rules updates that are coming for X-Wing. We're going to be diving into what to expect from those documents that are going to be dropping here in the next week or so. And then last but not least, and I think this is the most exciting part, we're going to really be diving into what the future holds for X-Wing. We're going to be talking about a lot of the new product developments that we have and we're working on. We're going to be talking about what to expect for where we want to take the games next. This all kind of drives back into, if you were with us for opening ceremonies, Simone Elliott, our glorious head of studio, talked a lot about our intentions to make these games not only survive, but thrive. And we have a lot of really cool stuff to share with you for some far-off reaching plans that we're working on right now. And due to our production timelines, you will hopefully see in the next 18 to 24 months. So with that said, let's go ahead and kick things off. Bring up that beautiful Razor Crest for us, please, if you would.
This miniature is super cool.
Let us just gaze at this beautiful chromed out spaceship. So, due to amazing timelines and how, as Schick said, 18 to 24 months, I actually worked on this in my previous role when I was director of licensing for all of Asmodee, and getting to make this ship obviously is super exciting for us. But more than anything, getting to be able to do this chrome paint job on this gorgeous ship that is so iconic was super cool for us. It is a beautiful miniature, and I cannot wait for all of you to get it into your hands.
Neither can we.
Neither can you. Well,
right. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what do we have next here. So
I think we have the movement dial.
I think we do. Have, so everyone wants to know how it flies. This is on a medium base. So it's a significantly sizable mid-range ship. And we do have the maneuver dial, and Plumber's going to kind of walk us through that. We're going to show a couple of one pilot card, and then an important crew card. And then Preston's going to take us through a lot of the cool art that was done for it.
Yeah, so this is our maneuver dial here on the ST-70 assault ship, or as you know it, the Razor Crest. I think the most interesting thing about it is you'll notice that its only blue maneuvers are straight. So one thing about this ship is that when it has those red tokens and you know that it's going to be trying to dump those off, it's going to be very predictable. So it's not going to be the most mobile thing in the galaxy, I guess I should say. But it does have lots of options. There are lots of different ways that this ship can maneuver, but they're not necessarily the easiest thing in the world for it to do. But the ship does have a profile that's going to let it last through some long-term engagements and kind of have that staying power, so it doesn't just disappear. So it's a little bit of a lack of mobility, and like the lack of ability to move dynamically every single turn without taking stress is mitigated somewhat by the fact that it's a tank.
Yeah, much like we've seen in The Mandalorian.
That's correct. And speaking of The Mandalorian.
Such a segue.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's all going according to plan.
So we have this wonderful ship card to show you, which is, of course, The Mandalorian. So as you can see, the ship does have a very robust stat line with 7 hull and 2 shields, and the pilot ability on this one is the one that really gets me. As we know from the show, the Mandalorian is very used to being outnumbered, and with this pilot ability, while you defend or perform an attack, if you are in the front arc at range 1 to 2 of 2 or more enemy ships, you may change one of your blank results to a focus result. So this is going to give the Mandalorian a lot more reliability with his focus tokens and help him both when engaging, attacking, and defending.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to say, Preston and I revealed this art piece many, many moons ago. Can you remind us who this amazing artist is on this fantastic piece?
If I could see the piece, then I would tell you.
I'm so sorry, Preston. Preston, it is the cover piece.
Oh, that's Sergei Glushkov.
Thank you. Sorry.
He's awesome.
Preston's eyes cannot see all the way into the studio as he is in Colorado.
It's true. It's a long way to look. So, talking about the Mandalorian, so he obviously has this robust statistic line. But what really kind of pushes this ship over the edge is when he brings the child along with him. And we have that upgrade to show you as well. We have the child. And so this one reads, set up after placing forces, choose an opponent. They assign the merciless pursuit condition to 2 of their ships, which we will get to in a moment. Your force, lose the recurring icon. After you defend, if you suffered damage during that attack, recover 1 force. So this gives you some more staying power, the ability to use your force and retrieve it if it doesn't work. So when you're trying to spend your force so that you don't take damage and you fail in doing that, you get your force back, so you'll have another opportunity later. It's very interesting, a very dynamic and fun card to play with. And of course, it gives that merciless pursuit condition to 2 of your opponent's ships. So let's go ahead and take a look at that one. It's very simple and a nice little buff for your opponent. And it is just after you perform an attack, if the defender is equipped with the child, you may acquire a lock on the defender because they know they need to get that asset.
They do. They need to interrupt his soup drinking.
And
The trouble with being the cutest thing in the galaxy is everybody wants a piece of you.
That's right. So this is gonna give your opponent a little bit more oomph while you're going through those force and stopping yourself from being damaged. Every time you attack him, you're going to get a lock, and then you're going to be able to reroll a bunch of dice or use your special attacks that require a lock. So gives your opponent just a little bit of an edge to kind of go against that massive stat line and pilot ability that the Mandalorian has.
Awesome.
Now I think we have some cool art assets for some additional things that were done with this ship and that we're going to see in the thing. So Preston's going to kind of walk us through those items.
Sure. Yeah, so this is Pelimoto hanging out with her droids. This is actually this is a piece by Apollo Puglioni. He's done many a character piece for us in the past. Very cool artist. This is a neat opportunity that we had to depict a scene that wasn't shown, but it's a scene between scenes in The Mandalorian, and you can kind of connect the dots in scenes and guess that this would have happened. So this is a neat opportunity for us to sort of make up what happened between when Peli, discovered the child and then, was hanging out playing sabacc. So
I mean, I would play sabacc with my pit droids.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Really,
It's a learning experience.
they could teach me something. I really love this stuff because I think that the art on these cards is what really draws you into the Star Wars galaxy while you're playing this game, and things like this just really let you see another side of what's happening while you're playing X-Wing. I love this piece.
For sure. Yeah, it is a super cool piece.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
And I think, Preston, you wanted to talk about some sketches also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show the man himself.
Jake Murray, all-star artist, love his work, and I thought this would be a cool opportunity to show some works in progress and how we went about selecting the piece that we went with. So we ended up going with that sketch A because it showed the whole narrative of what was happening, as well as I think it does a really good job of showing the characters and the action and the narrative. With B, you get the characters, not so much of the action, it's still kind of there. You get the narrative with C, but we're seeing the backs of the characters, so that gives you a little bit of an insight how we approach the art here. So
And this is rare. We often don't show kind of this behind the scenes stuff, but I'm excited. Through this panel, we'll see a little of the stuff that Preston's put together for us.
So with that, let's jump on to the next ship that we're going to show. One of the things you're going to notice out of all 3 of these things, which come form the next wave of X-Wing that you're going to see early next year, is that they all have a certain theme to them, and that theme happens to be Mandalorians.
You've spoiled it.
I know, I did. Maybe they couldn't figure it out, but I feel like they probably are onto us at this point.
I mean, the title,
So I'll be honest, when I first saw this ship printed out, as we were getting the paint master ready to send off to the painter and get painted, I was blown away by the size of it. It is a beefy ship, and it is none other than the Gauntlet Starfighter.
Yeah, so actually, we have wanted to do this, or Fantasy Flight has wanted to do this years ago, but this ship, the Gauntlet, is at the maximum size you can really get to without being an epic ship, but it's kind of small for an epic ship, so it just took a while. But what's really excited, we wanted to make sure that we could get that super cool, which the asset isn't on the screen, but this hand motion is totally going to make sense in the future, my friends. Oh, hey, that's a different asset. That's a cool asset, though. That is the Fang Fighter.
That's a Fang Fighter. But this is the
We're going to get to the
dial.
asset eventually. That's going to make sense. I promise it's going to be soups cool.
This is the maneuver dial for the Gauntlet Fighter, and I can confirm the Gauntlet Fighter is huge and it is awesome. As you can see, it has fewer options for maneuvers than, say, the ST70 that we just looked at, but there's a really nice spread of red, white, and blue maneuvers, so it's not going to be as predictable when it's trying to get rid of strain and stress, things like that. You're always going to have good options for where this thing is going to maneuver in the play area while you're playing, so very excited about this. And then, you know, not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters. Some of them serve a higher purpose. So we're going to take a look at one of my personal favorites, Bo-Katan. So this is Bo-Katan for the Separatists, and when I think of Bo-Katan, I think of teamwork. I think of pushing the people that you're working with to achieve a higher goal, and I think that this pilot ability, the devs that worked on this did a fantastic job of just kind of getting that idea of Bo-Katan across. And you've got before a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 activates, you may spend 1 charge. If you do, that ship may gain 1 strain token to remove 1 non-stress red or orange token. So you're able to help out your buddies and remove some of the detriments that they may have so that your plane gets furthered along, but it does cost you that strain token, which is going to make you a little bit less defensive, but that's sometimes worth it. We also have, again, very robust tank-like stat line attacks in both the front and the rear arc. I'm beyond excited about the Gauntlet Fighter. I'm probably going to buy like 3 of these for repaints. I'm very, yeah, I'm stoked.
Wow.
Well, there's
okay,
good
then.
reason for those repaints because, as the chat is noticing, it's not a scum. This is not a scum card. Next, we're going to show Bo-Katan again, but not as a separatist. And then we're going to show a whole bunch of other a fan of pilot cards, I think, or maybe we didn't have those.
We
got a fan right now.
We've got a fan right now. And we've got Bo-Katan Republic right up in the front. So different pilot abilities, still very awesome. After you fully execute a maneuver, you may gain 1 deplete token to choose an object in your front arc at range 1 to 2. If you do, another friendly ship may perform a target lock action to lock that object. So you get to pass out target locks to your buddies. Again, lots of support for the other ships that are flying around with you. And with the size of the base on this thing, it's going to be really easy to have those other ships at range 1 to 2. So I think Bo-Katan is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to play both versions. And not to mention everything else that's in this pack.
And I can't wait to shoot down your Bo-Katan with my maul. Oh, I wasn't supposed to say that, I think, but I did.
I mean, we're live, right?
Yeah.
We're live. You can't take it back.
It's true. It's true.
And I believe that we have...
I think we're going to talk about the Commandos? Mandalorian Commandos.
Oh, well, that's just the next thing. So along with an amazing ship, a whole smattering of pilots across multiple different factions in X-Wing, this ship actually introduces a brand new device, correct?
It's actually a double crew slot upgrade, but it is dropped like a remote. I'm very, very excited about these. So there are multiple different versions of the Mandalorian Commandos that go across different factions, and these remotes get dropped, and then they actually maneuver around the play area, and they run around and they harass enemy ships, putting strain tokens on them, making attacks. And to me, the idea of Mandalorians just jumping out of the back of their Gauntlet Fighter and just rocketing straight towards the enemy is just so iconic and so rad. I can't wait for this, just to have my little Mandalorian zooming around, harassing everybody. Like that is going to be the best. And you can see their stat line here. So they have attacks, they have, you know, everything that you would have on a ship. So they're just a little basically, you know, little group of Mandalorians flying around fighting a TIE fighter with their fists, and I love it. And then Preston wanted to talk about this wonderful art piece of the Super Commandos.
Yeah, so this is Ryan Valley doing cool things with the Mandalorian Super Commandos. We had a few of these pieces with all these the Mandalorians, the different types of Mandalorians. I just really enjoy this piece. I wanted to show it off. Some interesting art elements of this. We like to kind of tint the backgrounds, not just so it's like a black background, but add a little bit more interest in that teal color that you see there. Plays nicely with the red lasers coming off the West Star blasters. So there you go. That's the art.
It's super cool, as always.
I really like that aurora effect, the blue haze. Yeah, beautiful piece.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last product in this block that we're going to be specifically talking about is called Pride of the Mandalore, and it is a card pack that's going to introduce a whole bunch of new options that are, of course, Mandalorian themed, as well as some new Imperial stuff. And Plumber, can you walk us through kind of what to expect from that?
Yeah, but before I do that, I know Preston wanted to talk about this awesome Fang Fighter art before we jump in.
Just wanted to shout out Andreas Aparatos. He did a great job with this piece, and one of his few ship art pieces. Normally we have him doing likenesses on Legion, and I wanted to see what he did, and he just did a great job with the textures on this ship. Made it look sleek, made it look powerful. So, yeah, great job.
Cool.
Yeah. So Pride of the Mandalore brings new life to Fang Fighters and TLN Fighters. And I love Fang Fighters, and along with my 3 Gauntlet Fighters, I'm probably going to pick up 6 more of those for repaints as well. So I think we have a slide of the ISB Jingoist, which is a TLN fighter. This one, I just think the pilot ability is really interesting on this one. It's a middle initiative, so it's going to be engaging in the middle of your turn. But before you engage, you may choose one enemy ship in your front arc at range 0 to 1. If you do, that ship gains 1 deplete or strain token of your choice, unless it chooses to remove 1 green token. So when your low initiative ships are engaging later in the turn, maybe they need to plink down something that you've failed to take out earlier in the turn, you can go ahead and throw that strain token on them. Or if you're concerned about lower initiative ships that are going to be shooting later on, you can give them that deplete. This is just a really interesting piece to play with, plans that maybe didn't go exactly like you planned, which is how my plans usually go.
I was like, we would know nothing of
yeah,
that.
of course. And so beyond that, this is one of the ones I'm super excited about. Go ahead and bring up Fenrao. So we got Fenrao for the Rebel Alliance. Fenrao is one of my favorites, and like I said, I love Fang Fighters. I love the Rebel Alliance. So this is 2 great flavors meshed together for me. So this one's pilot ability is before a friendly ship at range 1 to 2 engages, if there is an enemy ship in its front arc at range 1, that friendly ship may remove 1 non-lock red token. So you've got more red token removal. Just very much Mandalorians are stronger together, right?
Yes.
You bring them together, keep them close, and just dominate the opposition is the plan.
Cool.
And I forget what the next asset is.
I think we got some art from
We have some
Preston.
Art from Preston.
Oh man, Francisco Miara killing it with some of his character pieces. We had him do some. Normally we have him working on a lot of characters in Legion, and I brought him over to X-Wing because I knew that Sabine was going to be a special character. He's the artist to take it on. So yeah, iconic piece. Sabine holding up the Darksaber, taking on that role for the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
it's just I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a really cool piece. Love the textures that he uses. Love his rendering style.
Yeah, and the likeness on her, like she just looks. This is the Sabine that I imagine.
Absolutely, she looks so powerful.
Yeah, it's really interesting to translate the Clone Wars and also Rebels into a more realistic looking style. Francisco does a really, really good job of doing that every single time.
Absolutely. Awesome. I feel like you have one more, Preston, that's for us to show.
So this is Ignacio Bazan Lazcano. We have a few sketches to show, right? With this one, or no?
We had hoped.
We'll
see if they come up.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, we do not. Tony's giving me the thumbs down.
Oh. So imagine this.
They're so cool.
But imagine it was the sketch.
Killing me. Okay.
We will show the sketch somewhere else in the future.
I'll verbalize it.
Yeah, describe it.
Just to describe it. So we were looking at some sketches. This is one of the instances where Ignacio sent in two sketches that were just A+, both of them. We went with this composition because there was just a really cool depth. It showed the Death Troopers in a really cool way, and kind of it added to the scene and let you go back in space and highlights that ship in sort of a more grand way
Yeah.
than the other sketch was. But the other sketch was awesome too, and I wish you could see it, but
Maybe it might end up on Instagram stories or something, you know.
yeah, that'd be great.
I can figure that out after
But yeah,
this.
Ignacio is an amazing artist. We'll be using him a lot more in X-Wing art in the future.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
All right, so that wraps up this next block of X-Wing. You should be expecting to see all of this stuff hitting store shelves. We hope, again, as we talked about before, there's a global shipping crisis right now. Everything's kind of in flux. We're giving you our best information as we have it, and as it evolves, we'll give it to you again. But we're looking at Q1 of next year for this stuff. And there is one more wave that we'll be covering in the future as well. And that will kind of wrap up everything that we have gotten across the finish line. So everything that you've seen so far has very much been in the camp of Fantasy Flight's work, and they've done an amazing job. And we've been very thankful to take their stuff and push it all the way through the rest of the pipeline.
Yep.
And again, you're looking at Q1 next year. That's what we're hoping for. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about organized play for X-Wing. Obviously, we've had a crazy last kind of year/18 months. Locations have been closed down. We've been in lockdowns. We've come out of lockdowns. We've had vaccines that haven't quite worked out. We've gone into this flux. Everything's kind of up in the air. But we do obviously still value organized play. We want to get back to a sense where we have gaming in stores where it's safe, providing that content and those experiences for players as well. And so the biggest thing that we first want to address, and Simone Elliott, our head of studio, is going to do this, is talk a little bit about our plans for Worlds given the current global situation and more of the competitive level, high-level organized play for X-Wing.
Yes. So obviously Worlds is something that is super important to us, but what is more important is that we can do this safely, and because it's Worlds, it involves people traveling internationally. So we are not right now in a position to plan a Worlds or kind of understand when that is going to happen. The moment we can, we are obviously going to share that with you in advance. But right now, everything is just too tenuous. As I said kind of earlier in the opening ceremonies, like 6 months ago, we were all like riding high thinking vaccines and we would be in a very different world by now. Clearly we are not. So we just want to make sure that everyone is aware that we will not be announcing anything for at least, at a minimum, the first half of 22. I got the year right this time. And with that, I do want to remind everybody that we will absolutely be still honoring your Worlds tickets from the FFG Worlds, or the World Slots tickets, however that works out. We'll still be honoring them, and as soon as we have more information, we'll let you know. What I can tell you is that we will be attending Adepticon in March of 22. So what we're going to have there at Adepticon is you're going to see narrative play. You're also going to see, obviously, competitive play. And once we have more information on the schedule and everything there, you will see that for X-Wing. And then for your Armada friends, also Armada will be supported at Adepticon as well, both for narrative and competitive. Cool?
Exciting stuff.
That is exciting stuff. And I think I disconnected my headphone.
That's possible.
No,
you
I
can't
can hear it.
us.
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
can.
That's
Sorry,
good.
you're not free.
So outside of the larger competitive level Worlds and bigger event conventions, we obviously do want to get back into in-store organized play. We've been working on a couple of kits that we want to share with you that will be coming out next year in order to kind of preempt and get communities back into the store where it's safe to do so. We also are going to be providing information and ways for people to participate in these kits without having to be in the store if their location is unable to have in-store play or people are not comfortable with that, depending on where we are, because again, everything is in flux and we don't really know what to expect. We're simply trying to make our best guesses to keep the community alive and vibrant and to make sure that everyone has chances to play with their friends, provided that their area is safe and secure to do so, because again, your health and safety is the most important thing to us. The first kit that you're going to see is called Aces High. This is a pretty awesome introductory kind of organized play event. We want these games to thrive. That means bringing in new community, having opportunities for new players to discover the game, learn the game, discover how amazing these games are, and then build out from there. So Aces High takes 4 pilots and has 4 players playing a free-for-all kind of format against each other. The goal of this kit is to introduce them into how to use the maneuver dials, how to fight and attack in kind of a fun, atmospheric way that also introduces the wider concepts of X-Wings. So we actually have a really cool visual from one of the cards that you get as a promotional item if you play in the event. So players that do play in the event get to pick one of 4 ships to pilot. They will get to walk away with the card that they choose to play with. And these things are really neat because, as you'll see, they're kind of standardized loadouts. And so instead of having a bunch of different equipment or upgrade cards and your ship card that you have to juggle, they took all of this information and put it onto one oversized tarot card. And this gives everything that a player needs to understand and read and know about for playing the game right at their fingertips. I'm really excited by the possibility of these, and this really got us thinking in terms of the future, and we're going to talk about this. You're going to see this idea come back a little bit more as a slight spoiler into what we're going to be talking about in the future section. But again, we're really hoping that this will be an event that allows existing communities to bring in new players in a way that's fun, enjoyable, that gives players the tools they need to dive right in and discover the magic of X-Wing right out of the gate in a very accessible and fun way. For those who are interested in something a little different, we also have a brand new kit coming out, which is probably one of my favorite X-Wing events that I've played in quite some time. It was developed by one Michael Plummer, and I'm going to let him talk about the genesis and the idea behind the event itself.
Yeah, so the second kit that we're going to talk about today is called The Droids You're Looking For. And the general idea behind that one, the narrative, is that there are some droids that have been jettisoned in a debris field in the middle of some fighting, and it's too dangerous for the larger ships of the fleet to go near and pull them in, so they send in starfighters to try and retrieve these droids because they may have information that could be vital to the war effort. But starfighters don't really have a great way to grab a droid and get it out, so they refit all the ships with retrofitted concussion blasters, and they're going to blast the droids out of the debris field to a place where it can be locked in a tractor beam and brought onto the larger ship. So you get sort of a game of kick the can, if you want to call an astromech a can, which I've heard is not great, but you're going to kind of move those around the battlefield. The whole thing, it really focuses on that core of X-Wing, which is your maneuvers, making sure that you get your ships close enough to the astromech so that you can affect them in the way you want to while still fighting off the enemy ships. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a great way to kind of introduce new players or even existing players to that maneuverability and planning all those things out. It plays very quickly. You can also extend it for longer games. I think it's going to be great for communities, and everyone that's played it has said it's a lot of fun, so here's hoping.
I remember this being pitched to me, and I like when something is pitched, it's like a line. I'm like, X-Wing, but what if it was soccer?
Yes.
So here we are, X-Wing, but what if it was soccer?
And again, the impetus behind this event kit is not only to provide players kind of a different game mode to play with that can be fun and enjoyable. We're also really looking at, outside of the competitive level stuff, how do we introduce new things that freshen up the game that also provide inroads to new players? So you saw the kit before, which had the combined pilot cards. That was initially developed by FFG, just to be clear, and we're taking it across the finish line and going to be releasing it next year. But with this one, which is purely in the ball of developed under us in the new AMG format, we wanted to create something that was a different take on the X-Wing experience. And when we boiled it down, it came down to how do we have fun with maneuvering in X-Wing, which is one of the biggest components of it. And then how do we have a bit of lighthearted fun? Kicking the astromech around proved to be really enjoyable and a great time, and a nice way to take the core of X-Wing and have a slightly different experience with it. The other brilliance of it, as something is ringing really loud in my room, is that it's another great way to introduce players into the game because it really focuses on the core mechanics of X-Wing, the things that make it special. Maneuvering, attacking, avoiding obstacles, and it does so in a fun and lighthearted way where destruction of your ship doesn't really stop anything because the ships pop back out of the central spawn zone, and then you get to keep going until somebody scores a goal. There's a time and a place for everything that we believe, and tournaments and other competitive level events are great. But if you want to bring new players in, if you want to introduce things, and you want to keep the game just alive and fresh in a different way, new game modes we find are amazing for that, and they work really well at a store level where communities are built and where they are nurtured and they grow as well. So those are going to be 2 kits that you can look forward to coming out next year. I'm excited for the players and everybody out there to get their hands on them. I'm excited for new players to discover the game through these. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to all the things we get to do next as we continue to build out in-store organized play and look forward to more competitive level organized play as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe this brings us to one of the meatier development chunks that we get to talk about, which is the points updates and rules updates that you all can expect that we've been working on quite studiously since we took over development of these games from FFG. And I'm going to let Michael Plummer kick it off with talking a little bit about the points adjustments and rules updates.
I'm going to interrupt Plummer very quickly, though.
Rude!
Is it interrupting if I haven't started talking yet?
It's true.
No.
Maybe you should start talking so she can interrupt you.
No. This is the point where, like I said earlier, in opening ceremonies, that changes are coming. There have been a lot of stuff that we've been thinking about and kind of getting us to the point where we are now. And one of those changes that I wanted to share with you now is that as of effective now, we will no longer be updating the official squad builder. All of your points updates are going to exist with the PDFs, which Plummer is going to talk more about.
Yeah, so the X-Wing points update. This thing has been kind of my life for the
Correct.
last long while. We've been taking a very sweeping look at everything that's in the game. Obviously, the state of points has been where it is for a very long time. And so we wanted to make sure that we took a very holistic approach as we looked at everything. And of course, we're looking at lists that are very, very dominant. So, Django Zam, things like that. But we're also just looking at things that maybe aren't performing and seeing where they need a bump. So when you see this points update, which is going to be around the end of this month, I know there was a lot of hope it would be today, but it's still baking and you can't eat the cake before it's done. So we need to let that finish going, but this is going to be sort of a wider points update than people are used to. There are a lot of adjustments across all of the factions. We've been focusing very strongly on making sure that we maintain those faction identities so that no faction feels like another faction and so that no one is unduly punished because an upgrade is X good or Y. Like, we really want to make sure that everyone has new and exciting options and that they are in a nice field of balance. There have been some challenging moments, of course, but we've got a great playtest team and we've been just going through things and putting it all together, and we're really excited to get that out to you in just a couple of weeks so that you can all start figuring out the new meta and playing more games.
Yep.
And in addition to the points updates, one of the big things that we decided to do at the start was to really dive in and look at the core rules and the foundations of X-Wing, not only to familiarize ourselves, that's a hard word to say, with the games, as Plummer and I played in 1.0 and needed to get back up to speed on everything, and we had great resources to do so. But also to look and see, again, talking about wanting these games not just to thrive, but where they can, or survive, but where they can thrive. We made some determinations based on current things in the core set and the core rules themselves that we felt were kind of omissions or things that we could improve upon based on the last 10 plus years of X-Wing play. One of the big ones was that we realized that the game length or the game determination endpoint of all ships on one side are destroyed was something that was left up to so much random chance, it didn't really have an endpoint. You could potentially play an X-Wing game for your entire life if you were just dogged enough and the dice were against you. And we all know dice are going to dice from time to time. So while it's an extreme and maybe absurd example, it is real. And when looking at it from a new player perspective, we felt that it was really important not only to have a determinate end to the game to begin with that players could play for and that would understandably conclude the game. Having that determined endpoint also really implements ideas that are found in the competitive level of organized play. Games aren't played typically to destruction. They're played to a certain point count, and they end at a certain amount of time. The importance of this is that we then went in and we started to determine a game length. This allows new players to sit down and know exactly when the game is going to end. They get to see a full conclusion of the game, and they don't walk away necessarily feeling unfulfilled or quitting because they just simply can't get to that all ships destroyed section. So we think this is going to be a really positive change for the game. It also opens up a wealth of opportunities for us to be able to start designing new scenario plays and things like that, because we now have these game endpoints that are going to be common to the core rules of the game. And Plummer can kind of talk about how that's going to get implemented as well in terms of its scope and everything.
Yeah, so we started to take a look at the way that games are played and about how long they go, and kind of where the numbers panned out is that we're looking at about 12, 13 rounds in a game of X-Wing. Just generally speaking, our experience playing the game, counting through rounds in old tournament videos, things like that. And what we kind of came up with is that, around 12, 13 rounds. So we've set the base game of X-Wing is now going to be played over 12 rounds of play. But we're also going to vary that so that if you want to get a quicker game in, you can play it at 9 rounds. Or if you're a player who really enjoys the maneuvering game, you want that cat and mouse and lots of turns before first engagement and all of this, you can extend your game to 15 rounds. It's going to be a determination you make with your opponent before you start the game, so you can decide if you want to play a quick game or if you want to have a really long extended engagement. Those are going to be options that are open to players, because we think that having that option open to you when you're sitting down to play the game is the best way to move forward. But also just having that standard of 12, which feels really good. 12 rounds feels about right. You get to have a lot of really meaningful engagements. There's still time to maneuver around the table and make everything that happens in a great game of X-Wing happen. And we think that this is going to be a really awesome change, and just, like Chick said, give people that determinate endpoint so that they can plan and know what's happening, and it really changes the way you think about the game as you play.
For sure.
And then the other really big one that we wanted to talk about was a little bit of, as we dug more into the points adjustments and everything that was going on, and we had some really great feedback from some folks who run higher level competitive play for the community and stuff like that. We wanted to take a really close look at the bid system. So bidding has been around in X-Wing for a while, but it opens up a lot of odd plays and some things that we didn't feel were really good for the longevity and health of the game. So in looking at how first players determine with the bid system, we decided to do something that will definitely be controversial, zero question. There will be people who find that it is shocking, and there'll be people that find that it may not sound good at the start, but through all of our data and observations and the discussions that we had with the critical feedback that we provided and the well thought out discussion points that we had, we've decided to remove the bid system entirely from X-Wing and go to a random turn order. And Plummer can talk some more about that specifically as well.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the bid basically presents us with two big questions or problems, whatever you want to call them. And one of them is that you're able to build a list that gains a huge advantage if it goes second. And then with the bid, you're able to basically make sure that you go second. And then on top of that, you can also protect points from your enemy when you're using point scoring by basically removing them from your list through a bid, and then all of a sudden your opponent has points that they are unable to score. So we looked at a lot of options for how to deal with this. We started off with we had the idea of, well, what if we limit the number of points that you can bid? And really, we discovered that, if you tell people, well, you can only bid up to 10 points, well, all of a sudden everybody's just playing 190 points and you're randomizing anyway. So then we started to think about random player order, and we messed with that for a little bit. And then we pulled that out, and we started to think about the idea of deficit scoring, which is another thing that's coming in. And that being that whatever points are left over in your squad that are between 200 and wherever you landed, so if it's 197, it would be 3, those points are going to be scored by your opponent. We started to play with when that happens. And as we went through all of these ideas, what we were realizing is that we were creating situations and play patterns that we feel go against the core spirit of X-Wing, wherein you would build a squad that is super survivable, doesn't want to shoot anyone, just doesn't want to get hit and score and win based off of their deficit. And as we looked critically at all of these problems and all of these things that we're trying to solve, the solution that we found was to implement this deficit scoring idea where your points are ceded to your opponent at the start of the game, anything between where you land and 200, and then also to randomize the first player choice. This means that we're going to be able to open up a lot of list building. You're going to have a lot of extra points to throw on upgrades or another ship into your list. It's going to make room for niche upgrades that maybe you wouldn't have thought about before, or that you can build around in a new and exciting way. It's also going to open up a lot of doors for us in development, like Chick was talking about. It gives us a lot of room that we can look at things like sideboards for organized play. We can look at changing the way that squads are built and when they're built in organized play. It also causes less problems for making scenario play and objective-based play, which is something that we're really excited about working towards and looking into in X-Wing. So that's the nickel version of what we did and how we did it.
So yeah, like I said, I can already see in the chat, controversial. There are people who love it, there are people who hate it, there are people who are not sure about it. It's important to us that we take every opportunity we can and every moment that we can do with these games to make sure that we're making the best decisions that we believe possible for the longevity of these games. I want X-Wing to be around when I retire and hand this over to somebody else. as do we all, internally at AMG and everywhere else. And we don't do any of this stuff lightly. We take it very seriously, and we believe that this is the best course for the game's longevity and for it to thrive. And we're looking forward to this next step. So I hope if it sounds crazy to you and you really don't like it, you at least hold back, give it a try before you immediately denounce it. But I understand this is an emotionally charged topic. We all do. But here we are. We're laying our cards on the table, and we have a lot of exciting things planned based around everything that we're looking to do to make sure that this game continues to be a strong, fun game for the future that's going to have a robust and thriving community. That includes some other things that we're going to be rolling out next year and working on now, but will affect both competitive and organized play in general in the stores. One of the big things is X-Wing has a ton of cards behind it. There's so many upgrades. There are a lot of ships. And it's just at a situation where when looking at things and looking at different flexible customization options and things, and especially working on this points adjustment, we really landed on the fact that a banned and restricted list is well overdue for the game. And we're working very closely with our testers and talking with community members within that group about how to best approach that, what's going to make the most meaningful impacts on the game. But our goal, again, is to make the most vibrant and exciting environment for play that we possibly can. And banned and restricted lists are important. Every game, as we've talked about on many other streams before, is like a garden. You have to tend to the garden. You can't just plant your seeds and let them grow wildly, or otherwise everything goes out of whack. Sometimes you have to come in with trimmers and trim your hedges and mow the grass and pull up weeds and all of that different kind of stuff. So while it may seem extreme at some points when a card is banned or restricted, at the end of the day, it is done with the best intentions for the health and longevity of the game itself. And I think it will really help not only keep the game meta fresh and exciting, but also maintain a healthy state and not tie us into decisions that were made previously that may not have just worked out. A lot of times the best idea at the time turns out to not be the greatest idea. Certainly lived through that life, as has Plumber on the game development side, where you've been like, this is fine, nobody sees a problem with it. And then it goes out to the world, and a number of games that you could never replicate within the actual product life cycle happen, and something happens that you didn't foresee. So banned and restricted lists are really important for us to be able to address issues that come up that we didn't foresee. And it's our job to make sure that those items and those things that happen are as minimal as possible. Yes. And then the last thing that we're going to be working on, and we kind of mentioned this before, but we want to introduce more competitive scenario play into X-Wing. We want to refresh and make that game experience more tactically and strategically challenging, and make things more than just simply shooting down the other guy. Well, dogfighting is great and will always be a core of the X-Wing experience. Our goal is to add more tactical depth and strategic decision-making into every game, and that includes the high-level competitive aspect of it. And so we're really looking at that stuff and looking forward, and this kind of segues really great into talking about the future, because again, these aren't things that are going to happen tomorrow. These are things that we are currently working on, and we have an eye towards, and everything is kind of working in parallel and building from the foundations that we're talking about today. Plumber, anything else you want to add?
No, I think you got it just about covered. I'm really excited for the future, for everything that we're doing with X-Wing. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a wild ride, and I'm here for it.
Fantastic. So let's talk about the future. Everything that we showed you, of course, kind of covers the Q1 of next year. There is stuff in the pipeline from FFG and things that we are completing that will kind of take us into Q2, and we're going to be showing those when the time is right. But we wanted to really take a moment and kind of address the fact that we do have and are working on currently some very significant plans for future development of X-Wing. And as we've talked about many times in other streams, and I'm going to talk about here with you all from the glorious X-Wing community, you know, our timelines are very long. Even for a print product, you're looking at 12 months to 18 months, depending on what that is. And when you're talking about making new ships, that can wind up being 24 to even longer, depending on what the ship is and everything that goes on. So, you know, as we talk about these things, know that they are definitely in the future, but we are working on them now. We're putting our time, energy, and effort into creating these things so that you can enjoy them, hopefully close to the end of next year, or global shipping and pandemic nonsense, hopefully close to the beginning of 2023. Again, we're aiming for as soon as possible, but a lot of this, really, we're at the behest of a lot of things that are just unfortunately outside of our hands. That doesn't stop us from putting all of our energy and time into these things. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is we showed the Aces High card with the standard loadout for the ship. When we saw this internally, come through as we were proofing and getting everything to print, we thought that this was such an amazing idea that we could take even further in games of X-Wing. Because one of the big things about kind of jumping in as a new player to any miniatures game in general is just the hurdle of learning and internalizing all of the information you need. And in X-Wing, where the cards might be spread out over a couple of different packs that you need, knowing how to customize your ship or have a really smooth onboarding experience can be difficult. Additionally, if you're a veteran X-Wing player and you have all the cards, but you just want to throw down a really quick game, or you want to try some unique builds, pulling out all the cards and kind of going through the deck building process of that to create your squad can be detrimental to a fast, fun, like throwdown game. So looking at the standard loadouts, we really came upon the idea of what if we did more of these and were supported through general X-Wing, the general X-Wing play, both in the casual formats and in the tournament formats. So one of the things we're working on are what we're calling standard squads. And these packs are going to be really fun. They feature customized, built standard loadouts of pilots like Darth Vader, pilots like Dutch Vander in his Gold One Y-Wing. And effectively, you're going to get the pilot, the ability, all of the upgrades that go with that pilot, all pre-built out. These are going to have points assigned to them. You're often going to find that the point value of these standard loadout cards is going to be a little less than what you would pay if you were customizing the card. And that's because you're sacrificing flexibility in order to achieve this kind of pre-built loadout. So it's standardized, you get a little bit of a discount, but you're not going to get all of the different options. So it might not be the most efficient option, but it might fit into the list a little better if you're looking for something to fill out a certain role. Additionally, and this was a genius idea of Plumbers, is that sometimes you're going to find upgrades on ships that might not actually apply to the general ship if you were customizing it. And this is a really fun way to kind of represent pilots or ships in their prototype phase, or to show like a very specific custom loadout that was done for, say, a Battle of Yavin. Again, these all add different elements that you can consider when, do I want to build a flexible, customized version of the ship, or do I want to take the standard loadout? Because maybe it does something that it can't do otherwise that I find intriguing or unique to the strategic and tactical decisions I want my squad to make. On top of all this, the way that we're going to roll these out is we want to start with what we're calling themed battle packs. So the first two of these, which I'm going to spoil for you, are the Battle of Yavin. I know, she can't stop me.
It's usually me. Wow, go for it.
They're going to be the Battle of Yavin and the Siege of Coruscant. These packs are going to feature approximately 10 new pilots per side. They're all going to be standardized loadouts. So you're going to see things like Red Squadron and Gold Squadron from the Battle of Yavin. They're going to have standardized loadouts. You're going to get pilots like Luke. You're going to see Dutch Vander make a return. You're going to see Garvin Dreves. You're going to see Darth Vader. You're going to see some Black Squadron pilots pop up and get new standardized loadouts as well. We're also, and this is kind of exciting, you might even see a couple of TIE interceptors in a prototype form. Don't tell anybody that I said that.
I would never.
On top of all of this, of course, if we have the opportunity to kind of hit these dramatic and exciting battles, we might as well put in some really fun and flavorful narrative scenarios. So, of course, in the Battle of Yavin, you're going to see a Death Star trench run scenario where you're going to reenact the attack on the Death Star and the last-ditch attempt by the rebels to try to blow up the Empire's super weapon. And then in the Siege of Coruscant, there's going to be another narrative scenario for that. We're really excited about the prospects of these products. We think they're going to add something that's really cool to the game, and we also feel like they're going to be great for players that are just starting out and looking for ways to dive in with their ships and have more options available to them that are very easy to pick up and play. So again, I think there's a lot of possibility here. We're really excited. Plummer has done some amazing work in developing the initial batch of these, and the scenarios that he's come up with seem like outrageously fun. And we're just starting into playtest on these as well. So we're very excited for all of that. And I think it's going to bring something really exciting to both existing and veteran X-Wing players, or existing and new X-Wing players as well.
Okay, I have to ask Plummer if this is where the fun begins.
Yeah, why not? This is where the fun begins. No,
I was going to not do it. I couldn't help it. I was holding it in the whole time.
No, in all seriousness, when Chick came to me and said, "Hey, we want to do this thing," I nearly jumped through the ceiling with excitement about how cool this sounded. And I'm really, really hype about these, and I think that everyone's really going to enjoy them a lot. I love scenario playing games. I love the opportunity to make cool scenarios of things that I love, like the Battle of Yavin. So this is going to be really cool, and hang on to your seats. This is going to be awesome.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's amazing. It's amazing. How
Couldn't
do we miss
help
it? Another product that we just started diving into full-fledged development with is a brand new campaign system. So one of the things that we wanted to explore more, and we really want to bring to existing players with a whole host of options from their collections, is new ways to play. Playing the basic game obviously can be very exciting and fun, but sometimes you want to do something different. Sometimes you want to see linked scenarios. You want to build and customize your own squadrons and your pilots. You want to tell a story like we see done so many times in so many different Star Wars medias. So we're going to be introducing a new campaign product. We're working on it now. Effectively, the idea is that players will choose their ships. They will get to customize their pilots over the course of several games, both narrative scenarios like bombing runs, blowing up supply crates, activating beacons, as well as more traditional dogfighting. As the game progresses, you're going to see your pilots reach the heights of glory or maybe get blown up in a sad, sad state of affairs. You never know. You're going to be restricted to specific loadouts and all of that stuff. So everything's going to pull in to let the players tell their own epic Star Wars saga among their squadrons and walk away with a roster full of heroes and maybe a couple of fallen sacrifices to the laser blast of the whole vacuum of space. Who knows? We're really excited by this prospect and possibility. Of course, campaign systems have always been kind of the gold standard of anything in a miniatures game community. There are ways to tell stories and forge narratives that you will live for the rest of your life and get to retell. And of course, the best part about these things is that you get to keep them and you can always bring them back out later on in casual games and things like that.
I have so many stories about awesome games that I've played over the years, and I think the thing that makes me most excited about this is the idea that at the end of it, you'll have cards for your squad, and you can show people, this is my pilot. They made the Kessel Run.
But in how many parsecs, Palmer? That's the important question.
That's true, but we're yet to find out.
And then the last kind of thing that we're really diving into initial product development on is one looking at how to reprint some of the ships that didn't make the 1.0 jump and refleshing out some of those classic and iconic ships and bring them into 2.0. That is, of course, a longer-term project because we're talking about production timelines and everything else, but it is something that we definitely want to do. We know that not everything has made the transition, and we want to be good stewards of the game and of the communities and bring those things back into the new edition. And then it looks like I'm getting the cutoff, but luckily that's where we end. So,
we got
haha, Kevin, I got you, because that was my last point. We're done. We're done. But yes, so that wraps up everything. Michael Plummer, Simone Elliott, please take us out.
Wow. All I'm going to say is this is the way.
This is the way.
Bye, friends.
Bye, friends.